Hello, everybody. Leanna here. I am back with an incredible guest today, Dr. Avrum Weiss. Is that how I say it properly?
Weiss.
Sorry, Avrum Weiss.
Okay.
He is a psychologist practicing for over 40 years, I believe, experience with relationships and uh, teaching psychotherapy. And most importantly, he's an award-winning author of 4 books. One of the books is a Amazon best-selling book called Hidden in Plain Sight: How Men's Fear of Women Shape Their Intimate Relationships. And this is the book that I'm very interested in because of the work that I'm doing with my Empower program and working with men in sexuality and relationships. So I'm excited to have Dr. Weiss here talk to us a little bit about what he's been finding through his years and years of working with men in relationships and sexuality. So hello, Dr. Weiss.
Hi, good to see you. You know
Good
that
to
by
see you
now
too.
half your viewers have already thrown something at the TV. As soon as you said men's fears of women, half of them already threw something at the TV.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I guess
Men.
probably not TV, iPad or whatever they're watching on phone or
Yes,
dating
exactly.
themselves.
Well, it's a big statement to make, men's fear of women,
It
and
is.
I mean, I know that exists, and there's also a lot of fear that women have of men too, and this comes down
Absolutely.
to comes
For
to a
different
lot of
reasons.
different, yeah, all of these things that have been going on, the belief systems, the history, the present, the future. There's all sorts of aspects here that
Yeah.
create this.
Yeah.
Um, but maybe just let's start with a little bit of an introduction about why this book came out of you. What inspired this to be presented?
Well, um, it is a known phenomenon among therapists that whatever you're working on in your life ends up in your practice. I don't know how that happens. I don't know how people know what it is you're working on, but there was a period in my practice about 20 years ago. So I was working almost entirely with men. Men were seeking me out. If you want to be a little, I don't know what to say, metaphysical about it, you would say that somehow men understood there was something I was trying to understand that would be helpful to them. And as I worked with, I mean, sometimes I would have a day with nothing but men that I saw. And then I started doing
Hmm.
groups with men.
Oh, I agree with you about that completely. Yes.
So what I heard a lot, most frequently from men, was a long litany of complaints about their romantic partner, if they were heterosexual woman. And I would sort of naively ask a typical therapist question. I would say things like, well, have you talked with her about this? And they would look at me like I had just asked the stupidest question in the world. Like, what kind of an idiot would ask me that? Um, and I gradually began to understand that they were afraid to talk to her about it. So I started checking that out with them and saying, you know, this is a little crazy, but it kind of sounds like you're afraid to talk to her. And I would get the same reaction every single hundreds of times. First, they would get defensive and bow up, and then you could just see the realization come over their face, and it would never take more than a minute or two before they were going, that's a really interesting idea. That would explain a lot. We should talk more about that. And then we would go back through territory we had already explored, only things that never made sense started to make sense.
Mm.
And it became sort of a lens that to me allowed me to understand things about heterosexual relationships, intimacy in heterosexual relationships that had always puzzled me, that never made sense to me. Once I understood how scared men were in those relationships, it all started to make a lot more sense. And I've continued to have that experience when I give talks or podcasts or whatever. Men's still have that same reaction, and women typically think I've lost my mind, think that that's not possible. It's difficult for women to imagine how men who are so privileged in the world we live in, what they could possibly be afraid of. What would a man?
Hmm.
I mean, men beat women. Women don't beat men. What the hell are you afraid of? You're not afraid I'm going to beat you up. So what the hell are you afraid of?
Hmm.
It's a
Hmm.
difficult one for women to wrap their minds around.
Yeah.
And yet, as we were talking, and yet more women read my work than men, which I think is
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. But definitely, just so revealing to hear that from men, to hear that there is that fear, and I know that that exists too, because I hear that all the time as well. Well, you know, why would I tell her? How can I tell her? I have no idea. How will she react? So let's go into that a little bit more, since that's sort of the catalyst
But
to open these up.
follow your stream of thought there. How would she react? How are they worried she's going to react? What are they worried is going to happen?
Yeah, yeah. What are
I'm
they worried?
asking, what do you
Uh,
think? Why do you think they're worried? What are they scared about?
they're scared of being rejected,
Exactly.
being rejected.
Exactly.
And because I'm dealing in sexuality, I'm talking to men about sort of deeper desires and
Right.
being able to reveal those. It's the shame of the desire that they're holding, and that they think
Exactly.
their wife's going to think they're nuts. She's going to
Yeah.
leave them. She's going to completely
Right.
disassociate from him. So
Wh-
yeah,
Why do men
rejection.
why do men obsess about being rejected by women? Think about it. When men get together, young men, they talk about, oh, she shot me down. That's the phrase that's most often
Yeah,
used, which is
yeah,
interestingly dramatic term,
exactly.
associating being rejected with death. The reason is that you think like, okay, so she'll have sex with you, so go have sex with yourself or have sex with someone else. What's the big deal? But
Yeah.
it's not just sex. It's she didn't validate me. She didn't
Hmm.
want me. She didn't approve of me. And that is terrifying to
Yeah, exactly. And it can be,
men.
I'm always amazed by, one incident, even one incident within a long-term relationship can stop the conversation for years.
Mhm.
Years. I said, well, you've only mentioned it to her once in 10 years.
Yeah, yeah. And typically women are baffled because they have no idea of the strength of the fear that men are experiencing. And so men's behavior makes no sense to them. They can't make head
Mm-hmm.
or tails of it because if you don't understand that men are afraid, they don't make much sense to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Well, so let's get into making sense of it then.
Okay. I would
Because
invite you and your listeners, readers, to Google the still face experiment. Did you ever
the
study that in
still face.
school? Do you remember the still face experiment? So it's a social experiment from the
Okay.
probably the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
A guy by the name of Edward Tronick. And they filmed mothers and infants playing with each other,
Mm.
split
Yeah.
screen, just like we are now. And you can see there's a conversation, even though these are infants who can't speak. The infant makes a cute face, the mom smiles, and the infant goes, oh, mom likes that face. I'm going to make that face more. And mom tries something and it soothes the baby. So the mom learns. They're teaching each other how to be in relationship together.
Yeah.
The human infants are the most dependent creatures on the planet. Human infants are completely incapable of living without their caregivers. So for
Mm-hmm.
the infant, having mom's attention is not a luxury, it's life essential. If mom is not taking care of me, I'm going to die.
Mm-hmm.
In the experiment, they asked the moms to turn away and turn back with a still face, meaning not expressive, not angry, not critical, not harsh, just blank. And
Mm-hmm.
within a minute or two, all of the infants completely decompensated, started screaming. Some of them lost bowel and bladder control. Some of them could, just from their mom not responding to them. So that is the earliest imprinting for boy babies. It is for girls too, but it's different in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Then they grow up and they get interested in women and they are re-traumatized in exactly the same way. They
Mm-hmm.
feel the same panic about women not approving and attending and validating them that they did when they were infants. And that's the basis of the fears.
Yes, that's very, very telling. So okay, so now they're grown men. They have these fears. Okay, there's a lot of different fears that you go through in the book. Um, how do you want to start with this explanation? We should get into some of these fears that men are holding on to beside, and then how we'll move into like how can they move through them.
Sure.
There's just so much information in the book. Of course, you have to go read the book, and I did, and it's a lot to hold in, but there's just so many juicy points that you're bringing forth here. So yeah,
Well, we can in the book I list the fears in order from
yeah,
the most conscious and socially recognizable to the ones that are deeper that most people don't recognize. So if we
mhm,
start on the level that people recognize easily,
yeah,
if you imagine the scenario in which a guy's at work and it's getting towards the end of the day and his friends come up to him and they say, hey, we're going to go to the bar after work to watch the game. Would you like to come with us? Do you know what most men's first thought is in that situation?
they're wondering if their wife is going to approve.
Right, right.
Is it okay? Will
Before
she?
before they even have a chance to know whether they want to go with their friends, their
Hmm.
first thought is likely, uh-oh, I don't want to get in trouble with the missus. Now, what's most sad about that is that their wife or girlfriend or partner is not trying to restrict his social life. In fact, it's usually quite the opposite. Usually she's saying to him, why don't you go to the bar with your friends sometime? You never see your friends. What? So it's not because she's been critical of him. It's his own self-generated fear that she doesn't even know about, but is running his internal life and shaping his intimate relationships with other men because it has
Hmm.
to be run through the mediation of his fears of disapproval from his partner.
Okay, so let's go into that. Why is that fear of disapproval? Is that stemming then, are you saying from that childhood
Exactly.
blank space, not
Absolutely.
responding
Yes.
mother?
I had a guy who told me once that when he got home, he could tell the minute he walked in the door whether his wife, the first thing he thought about was, is my wife upset with me? And he said he knew from the minute he walked in the front door. But now understand what he meant was he hadn't seen her yet. He believed he could tell from the air whether or not. And I believe him because
Yeah,
men are so hypersensitive to any sign of disapproval, or even it doesn't have to be disapproval, like the still face, there's no disapproval. It's just not validation.
yeah.
Men are dependent on women for that approval and that validation, and they are hyper vigilant for any sign that it's not forthcoming. And that's why, since you're particularly interested in sexuality, that explains a lot about heterosexual sexual relationships. Women think that men have a stronger libido than women. I do not agree. I
Yeah.
think men's urgency around sex is urgency around validation, not orgasm. If it were just orgasm, you can do that for yourself. You don't need a woman to have an
Hmm.
orgasm. But
Hmm.
that's not at all satisfactory to men because it doesn't involve the validation. You know the old saying, women need to feel loved to have sex and men need to have sex to feel loved.
Yeah.
You can speak for the men's side of that and say that's absolutely true. Since men are socialized to not have a breadth or depth of other relationships outside of their marriage or a girlfriend, whatever, they have all their eggs in that basket. So all their needs for emotional validation end up in the sex basket.
Hmm.
And so if they're not having sex, they feel unloved and not worthwhile and not adequate. And that's why they panic.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
not
definitely
about
there.
libido.
Yeah, no, definitely not libido because men do approach women even with an erection. Hey, I'm ready to go, let's go. And there's lots of other, and then they hear that they see this blank stare from her, like, what are you doing? And
Right.
that right away cuts them off from ever approaching her again, thinking she doesn't want to have sex ever again. Women don't want to have sex. She doesn't
Listen to
really
the
want
language.
him.
Listen to the language. Cuts him off. That's the phrase we use. What's that's a reference to? Castration. That's the language we use. We
Yeah,
say she cut him off, but
yeah,
it's a metaphor for castration.
yeah, yeah. That's deep. That goes deep for
Freud talked
him.
about it 150 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. I mean, there's a lot of layers around that as well, and I'm really try to help men get through that layer of the rejection that they're taking in at that moment,
Yes.
and
But it's the
trying to step
rejection.
into a deeper connection to their own desire,
Yeah.
to their,
But it's
and,
not a
and
rejection of their penis or their sexuality. It's
exactly,
experienced by men as a rejection of themselves,
exactly.
their person. I'm not okay. She doesn't want to have
Hmm.
sex with me. I'm not okay.
Exactly. I'm not okay. I'm not good enough, as you say in your book as well. I'm not good enough. So I'm going to retract, and all
Exactly.
sorts of other problems start to happen from there.
Yes, because that is the classic pattern in heterosexual relationships for conflict.
Hmm.
Is that women tend to be more observant because women are more socialized into being attentive to interpersonal dynamics. So in heterosexual relationships, women are most likely to be the first to notice if something is amiss. So women are more likely to bring something up to talk about.
Hmm. Hmm.
So a woman may say, you know, Fred and Janet, I just found out Fred and Janet go out to go dancing every Friday night, and I think that's lovely. And we don't ever go out. We should go out more. Now, from her perspective, she's thinking this is an overture. This is like foreplay. I'm trying to make an effort to get closer to, but that's not how he hears it.
Hmm.
Because men are socialized to believe that they are in charge and responsible for women. So
Hmm.
if women are unhappy or less than happy, men hear that as a critique of their
Hmm.
adequacy. You are not doing your job keeping your partner happy. So she's thinking of it as an invitation and he's hearing it as a criticism. So, of
Hmm.
course, he withdraws because he feels criticized and threatened. She escalates because she's trying to make an overture to connect and he's not hearing her. So she gets louder. He withdraws further. She gets louder. And the next thing you know, they're, sleeping in separate bedrooms and they're like, what the hell happened? Because they don't
So,
understand the dynamic that's underneath it.
yeah, total miscommunication, forms of miscommunication, or an
Yeah.
inability to communicate in
At,
a way
at a
that,
deep, deep level.
at a deep
These are
level.
hurts that are really big.
Yeah, I love that you've gone deeply into that. And
Mhm.
so we've got this fear of rejection. I'm not good enough. Okay, so where do we move from there? What other fears are we going to bring out here that you mentioned in your
So
book?
if we move to a deeper level, we
Mm-hmm.
can talk about men's fears of emotion in women. And
Mm-hmm.
this, again, is a very common dynamic in heterosexual conflict, but I think it is profoundly misunderstood. So typically, women become more emotional during conflict and men become more stoic. And the women
Mm-hmm.
get more emotional, the men get more stoic, and it gets more and more polarized till in many couples it appears like only one person in the relationship has feelings and the other one doesn't, which of course is not true.
Mm-hmm.
So what is not being understood there, what the common misunderstanding is that women think that men are trying to control their emotional life. So men will say things like, just be rational, just talk sense, just stop getting so hysterical. And women
Calm down.
calm down, exactly. Women experience that as men trying to control them. What they don't understand is that it is trying to control women, but it's in the interest of trying to soothe themselves
Mm.
because men are often don't feel very competent. So when women get upset, men get upset. That's just what happens between human beings.
Mm-hmm.
You start crying right now, I'm going to feel something. It's contagious. If
Mm-hmm.
have a heart, you care when other people are emotional. So
Mm-hmm.
when women get more upset, men get more upset. And they don't know how to manage that. They don't know how to soothe themselves. So the only way they know to soothe themselves is to try to shut you up, to try to calm you down. But what they're really trying to do is calm themselves down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
And
then, of course, there's that escalation of anger that can start to
yeah, yeah.
take
So
place within the man.
the Gottmans talk about the
Mm-hmm.
slow startup and they say that their data is they can predict within the first 3 minutes of an argument how it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about this. If women escalate quickly, the argument is not going to go well. They will flood the man with emotions he's not prepared to handle, and he'll
Mm-hmm.
withdraw, and they're done. But if
Mm-hmm.
women can learn to match their The same way that when you talk to somebody, you look at how they're reacting to you and you don't even know you're doing it, but you're changing how you're talking to match the reaction. That's what women need to learn to be more connected with their partner as they start to get into emotional territory and not go faster than he does. And what I like to tell couples is the good news is you already know how to do this. And they know
Mm-hmm.
how to do it because you had to learn how to do it to have sex. To become sexual with each other, you don't get aroused at the same rate. You have
Mm-hmm.
different arousal patterns, and you must have learned how to be attentive to your partner's state of arousal and go faster or slower or this or that in response to your partner. It's the same exact process emotionally. Same thing you learned how to do sexually. Now you're going to learn how to do it emotionally, but you already know how to
Mm-hmm.
do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yes, there's a whole aspect within sexuality as well that both men and women need to learn about in order to take sort of that sexual experience to another level. Because a lot of the time I work with people who are in these long-term relationships, what they've been doing is not working anymore in the relationship. There's all these elements that you're talking about as well that are causing the friction and the problems. But
Mhm.
there's also a level of also understanding what is sexuality within a feminine being, within a masculine being. How do you bring them together so that they can create some kind of magical journey together, or something that's going to be different than what they've been doing, because we
Yeah, of
do change along the way. And this is
course.
also this is also about all this thing, all that you're talking about is about creating change. Let's create some change here. Let's really look at what's been going on. And I love the breakdown that's been happening, how the book really breaks it down for people to understand really clearly. And let's find some solutions so that there isn't all of this fear that exists between men and women, because we
Right.
actually really love each other and we want to be with each other. Like women, heterosexual women want to be with men. Heterosexual men want to be with women. We're drawn to each other.
Yes, we are.
And there is a way that we can start to communicate and come together and have much more, you
But
know.
because men are so hidden about their
Mhm.
desire for connection,
Yeah,
women don't always know that men want to be close to them. A lot of women have sort of given up and just assume that men are not interested in intimacy, and that is not true. That's
yeah,
a
absolutely.
terribly sad misunderstanding.
So many misunderstandings, so many, of course, have like, even earlier when you were saying that women don't want to have sex, or women don't think about sex and it's mostly men, that is an absolute fallacy, of
My God,
course.
thank God that's not true. What a sad
And
world it would
you
be
know,
if that were true.
exactly. And it's really taking all of these old belief systems through the patriarchal system, which you are breaking down, and I've been breaking down. Many people are breaking this down and realizing that these are just not true the way that we've been operating. And it's been actually causing more problems than anything else.
The hard thing for people to get in what you're talking about is that people think in black or white terms. So they think, oh, patriarchy, that's men oppressing women, that
Yeah.
damages men and that damages women and benefits men. Martin Luther King had an amazing quote about that. King said, segregation scars the soul of the perpetrator as much as it does the victim,
Mm-hmm.
which is a really fascinating idea. And I'm saying the same thing about the patriarchy. What we
Mm-hmm.
need to understand is that being in a dominant position is not good for men either. That having a hierarchical power relationship is just as harmful to men in different ways, but it ain't good for men any more than it's good for women. It cripples
Exactly.
men, it leaves them emotionally crippled and lonely and dying 7 years sooner.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's something you said about loneliness being one of the biggest problems, diseases. What did you say that it is for men right now?
Yeah. Loneliness is a bigger factor in early mortality than smoking cigarettes. If you had to choose between smoking cigarettes or being isolated, you'd live longer if you smoked cigarettes and had good friends.
Oh
Nobody
my
knows
goodness.
that. It's crazy. But when you go to the doctor every year, after he's done asking you, do you smoke, do you drink, do you do drugs, he should be asking you,
Are you lonely?
yeah, how's your friend, how's your interpersonal relationships? Do you have confidants? Do you have people, if you were in a jam, do you have somebody you could call to help? That's just as important. And so men often live sort of lives of quiet desperation. I do therapy groups for men, and it's been such a shock to me to hear these men talk to each other so intimately and so openly and talk about loving each other. It's not how we think about men,
Mm-hmm.
is how men are. I see it every week.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's the same with the program that I run. I was doing individual coaching, but now I do program with small groups of men. It's an absolute game changer
Yeah,
for how not only, but like you're saying, for them to hear other men revealing what's really
right,
going on. Men open up much more than I've
right.
ever seen before. And they also feel more accountable to the kinds of exercises that I'm offering them to do because, oh, he's doing that and this is happening to him. Well, maybe I'll try it and see how it changes me. And
Yep.
so it's absolutely an
If you
incredible.
videotaped one of your groups and you showed it to those men's partners, they would think it was AI. They would think,
Yeah,
that's not my partner. There's no way in hell that's my partner. He doesn't talk like that. That's not him. They would think you made it up.
yeah, yeah.
And that's so sad to me that so many women don't know that about their partners.
Yes, yeah. Well, there's much that one doesn't know about their partner. And I want to just go back to the loneliness aspect that you were just talking about because it's that loneliness that exists even within the relationship, of course, within the relationship. So, can you talk about that a little bit? That feeling that men have, and this is that retraction of emotions, the backing away, the holding, not revealing what they
Sure,
are
sure.
feeling and the desires that they have, leading
If you
to,
have a job and every hour of every day of your job, you're worried about being fired, and you just work, it's a mean company and they fire people without notice and without cause and they're threatening people and scaring people all the time, how much of your best work would you be able to do in that job?
yeah,
Not much.
no,
That's how men live
very
in
stressful.
relationships. That's how men live in relationships. They spend every hour of every day working, worrying about being fired. And so they're constantly on edge and they're always playing defense. They're always on guard and not able to access the parts of men that we're seeing in our groups. They're rarely able to bring that to their relationships. Sometimes men's intimate relationships are the place in the world where they're most guarded.
Yes,
Again,
yes,
it's terribly sad.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And of course, well, women would like to hear those
that's
deeper
the tragedy.
emotions.
That's the tragedy. Exactly.
Women want that. Women spend all of that emotional time trying to draw it out of them in
So
any way that they getting frustrated because they're not able to get this deeper emotional content out of them.
I do a
Um,
workshop for the public, and I do the setup of the workshop is you remember the old TV show The Dating Game
yeah,
or the Newlywed Game? So they
yeah,
would ask couples questions, and they would write down the answers, and then they would ask the woman, "How do you think your husband answered this question?" or "How do you think your girlfriend answered this question?" So I do a workshop that way, and I
oh, good
take
idea. Yeah.
scenarios like the one about your friends ask you to go to the bar, and I take those scenarios, and then I have a pool of answers that I've gotten from people over the years, and I ask women to predict what they think their partner would, how the partner would answer that question, and of course they don't know. And I ask
Yeah,
men, how do you think? And so it's just sort of a playful way of bringing home to people that they have a lot to learn about each other.
yeah, a lot hidden,
Yeah.
a lot repressed. Okay, so let's look at some of the other fears going deeper levels. We've got, yeah,
So we talked about the fear of emotions,
uh-huh.
and so you talked about the patriarchy. So that is the deepest fear for men is the idea that someone might see me as feminine. And the reason for that is that in this culture, there's a fascinating group of research if people want to look into this more called fragile masculinity. So
Mm,
women experience a gender identity that's a given. So if you talk to women and say, how long have you felt like a woman? Or when did you think? They'll say, well, from the minute I was born, I've always known I'm female. It's not never been a question. But if you ask men that question, they will tell you that they experience masculinity as something that has to be won and defended always, constantly, always
Mm,
subject. And the definition of masculinity in our culture is not aspirational, but reactionary. Masculinity
mm-hmm,
in this culture means not feminine. So
mm-hmm,
men have to be on the lookout always for anything that suggests they might be feminine. But unfortunately, in this culture, that means warmth, tenderness, vulnerability, intimacy. So men live this horrible conflict between the person that they're told they should be and the person they feel in their heart they are. This research is under the topic of gender role conflict. So the
mm-hmm,
bigger that gap is associated with things from heart disease to depression to early mortality, all kinds of negative outcomes. The more the gap is between who you think you are and who you think you're supposed to be as a man, makes people literally sick.
mm.
And
Yeah,
so
that's
that's the
awful.
deepest of these fears, is that I'm not a man, I'm not adequate, and somebody's going to find out that I'm not a real man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is a very fascinating one, and uh, I was working a lot with when I initially started working in around sexuality. It was with men who were coming out as bisexual, and I was working with women who were dealing with husbands because I was at the time, of course, working with something that's part of our own life. Husband who comes out as bisexual, and throughout the years finding out that men who are in that state are extremely prone to depression and various diseases because it is, I'm not gay, but I'm feeling I want to explore and expand from this point. And just really, really being difficult, and that's very connected to that feminine. And I kind of I look at this sort of in an energetic way where the patriarchy has created sort of this wounded masculine traits that exist. And then then we have the sort of the divine masculine, which is, or the conscious masculine, and being able to move from, and this is how I show it in the programs that I offer, is moving from a wounded masculine into a divine masculine, where that gap is held between, and how it keeps expanding as people then continue to sit in that kind of wounded state. Wounded is kind of a strong word because it wasn't forced upon people. It's just belief system that everybody adhered to, the
I
patriarchal
think
belief
men
system.
experience it as being forced on them. I think men
Okay.
experience a sort of Sophie's choice, sort of damned if they do and damned if they don't.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you're brought up that way, you don't really
Right,
know the difference.
right.
It's just, this is the way I am. This is the way I was brought up to be. I don't know that there's any other way to be, or any other way to act in these situations.
And being
And
differently risks being mocked and made fun of by other men.
of course, and that exists in a very high level. When actually we all have these masculine and feminine traits within us. We're all part of the masculine and the feminine, and some of us kind of follow the feminine a bit more, and some of us the masculine. But we all need these kinds of traits in order to live our lives.
Or we could go another step further and say these are neither masculine or feminine traits, that tenderness, warmth, empathy, compassion are not gendered.
They're
They're
not
just
gendered.
human.
They're human.
That
They're
we
a full
don't, that
scope.
it's arbitrary to divide them by gender.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's ultimately that's ultimately what we would like to create. That we all have these traits. Uh, everybody moves to a different kind of music in who they are, in the type of person that they are, and the way that they come forth. But that they are allowed, and there is the availability for them to open to any of these
Right,
traits.
right. So
Right.
for men, it's a process of embracing their tenderness, warmth, empathy, compassion, without feeling as if that makes them less of a man, but
Mm-hmm.
understanding that it
Mm-hmm.
makes them more of a man. It's just a different kind of man than you were brought up believing.
Mm-hmm. More as a human being, as you say, it's not masculine or feminine. Because you did make a comment about masculinity. what did you say? Masculine, a collective hallucination.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not, there's no, if you look at the research on gender differences, it looks pretty clearly that they're overwhelmingly learned, that there are very
Hmm.
few innate differences between men and women. It's mostly, so we have data that says that babies as young as 4 months old are reinforced differently by their parents based on gender. So when the little
Yes.
4-month-old baby gets hurt, the parents go, oh, are you okay? And the little 4-month-old boy gets hurt, and they go, get up, come on, get back to it. And it starts right there.
Yeah.
And so the boy learns, suck it up, be tough,
Hmm.
don't let
I would
anybody.
say it starts earlier when the doctor looks at your child and said, this is a boy, this is a
Right,
girl,
right,
or this is, we're not sure. We're going
right.
to just alter things a little to make sure that it's clear. And that happens, of course,
And of
as
course,
well.
people are starting to object or starting to push back against that.
Yeah, yeah. So it doesn't really give the child an opportunity to step into who they actually are.
Right.
It's already decided from a very early age because we are conditioned to believe this is boy, this is girl. And of course, there's all this mixture of new genders and coming in, and people are needing to label themselves in, well, in different gender kind of roles. But I think it's important that we do that to understand that it's not just a polar man woman. There is
Well,
a whole
and
mixture.
it's all still fear-based. What we're talking about is still fear-based. So there's a lot of hysteria right now about trans kids.
Yeah.
Like there used to be a lot of hysteria about gay kids, and there was a lot of hysteria. We don't want a gay teacher in our school. We don't want our kids being taught by a gay teacher. But think about what underlies that. Why do you think homosexuality is so attractive that if your kid is exposed to a gay person, they're going to become gay? I mean,
Hmm.
if your son's teacher is black, you don't think he's going to become black. If your son, why is it that that's the one thing that we're worried that our kids are going to get infected with? Because we're afraid of our own. We're disconnected from our own homoerotic selves, which Kinsey told us 75 years ago we all have, and so
Yeah.
we suppress it in others.
And disassociated from our sexuality,
Yeah,
completely disassociated from sexuality and the taboos that exist around just sex in itself. I mean,
that's
that's
why we
that's a
create
whole
those taboos. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Um, okay, so we've gotten down to the patriarchy, and so how about some because yeah, how about talking a little bit about some steps of solution for some of these men that can really resonate to what you're saying.
The biggest surprise to me has, as you and I were just talking about, is how different men are in the company of just other men. And so what I've learned, and I think is true, is that the journey for men begins in conversation with other men. It's just too threatening to try to begin by opening up with a woman. I think it works a lot better for men to begin these conversations about their fears with other men, and then after getting a little more confidence to then go and talk with the women in your lives. And so there's a chapter in the book which means a great deal to me because it sort of walks people through a step-by-step process of how do you find other men to talk to, and how do you
Hmm.
create a setting in which you can talk with other men about more than sports and politics and work.
Yeah, yeah, that's very important.
So I think that's
And
where it starts.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I
Which,
agree.
interestingly, when the women's movement started in the 60s, guess what? That's exactly what people figured out. Women got together in groups with other women as a first step. And so why
Hmm.
would we think this would be any different?
It's not.
I think
It's
it's
not.
just the same.
They're
And
dealing with similar problems, similar feelings are coming up, similar things are holding them back from expressing who they are and being who they are. And so, yeah, you have to find out what's going on out there.
and for men, it's interesting, but something that women often don't know is that boys' friendships with other boys when they're little are as intimate and as important to them as girls' friendships with other girls.
Hmm.
Then men are socialized to not be close with other men because of homophobic concerns. And so they separate. And men today, if you ask most men, do you have friends? They'll say yes. And then you ask them, I mean, the kind of friend that you would talk to the way you're talking to me. And they're like, oh no, I don't have friends like that. And so they're incredibly lonely. And when they get into a situation where they realize that there are other men and it's safe to talk, it's like a flood. I mean, it's been pent up for years, and they're so happy to be in a situation where they can talk
Yeah.
to other men. It feels so good to them.
Yeah, beautiful. I think that work is exactly what we need right now. And I remember hearing Esther Perel talking about that as well recently in one of her workshops, just at the small group uh, group concept with men on their own is what really is going to make a huge transformation moving forward.
I have been working with therapists. It's one of the things I do most often now is trying to get therapists to start groups for men. And so
Hmm.
I give my time to help them get these groups started because I believe in it and I really want there to be
Hmm.
more groups available. I want more therapists to be interested in working with men and offering groups for men.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's fabulous work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And the book I think is going to is changing people's lives,
Hopeful.
I'm sure.
I hope so. I mean, I certainly hear from people that that's true. And, I
Hmm.
want to get the word out there. I want people to understand this.
Yeah, yeah.
Podcasts are
And
a good way to do that.
yeah, it really is the time to start to breathe again, really. I mean, we've been feeling quite disconnected from each other, and there's been a lot of competition even between men and women, and there's a lot of pushing and forcing and fighting, and it's just we don't need to do that. We actually can get along once we understand each other. But I always keep saying, like, you have to first understand yourself and allow yourself to like you get connect to yourself. I work with men really connecting to their body, and the body, that enables them to start feeling their a lot of men I work with can't feel below their neck, really. They cannot feel the sensations below their neck. And so what is their body telling them, and starting to feel at a deeper level throughout their body, deeper, deeper, deeper into those desires that exist, those feelings that they really actually have and would like to express it. And in the group scenario, that's where it does come out, because
Yeah.
everybody's sharing.
Yeah.
You're not alone. Again, you're not
Creates a
alone.
whole different environment.
And it does a lot. It solves a lot of the problems of the loneliness, like you were mentioning,
Absolutely.
and the ability to share, and the realization that you can have these feminine traits. It's okay. These are traits that are allowed and needed and necessary and wanted and desired by your feminine partner, right?
For many men, the last time they had close male relationships was high school or college.
Mm.
And so they spend the rest of their lives sort of mourning and missing the closeness with other men.
So once there's the marriage, then suddenly their focus shifts. The
Yep.
male relationships
Drop
disintegrate,
away. Yep.
crumble away,
And a
and
great
or
place to be.
they become superficial. I don't know, even through high school, I think it starts to become a bit more superficial,
Mhm.
about especially the relationships around sexuality, from what I've heard, like talking about, have you scored? Did you get her yet? As
Right.
opposed to those deeper feelings of connection with a woman, and what sex is all about, what sexuality is about. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Fascinating. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and talking to me.
My
I know my
pleasure.
audience is going to love this,
Good.
just love this. And I will share your book information
Thank
and
you.
all of the details. And what else can you say about contacting you or getting
Well,
involved with
so
anything you're
you'll
doing?
give them my website, and I take great pride in the fact that I return every email I have ever received within 24 hours. If you email me a question or something you want to talk about and you don't hear back from me, I either died or I didn't get your email. But if I got your email, I will reply to it. If I die,
Beautiful.
I can't help you. But so feel free to write me with questions or comments or whatever you want, and I will respond.
Fabulous. That
You can also sign up for my mailing list. I write regularly for Psychology Today. If you sign up for the mailing list, you get a free ebook on relationships, and you'll then get the stuff that I write for Psychology. I am actually on a 6 month sabbatical now, but you can access the whole. I have 4 years, almost 100 articles, and you can
oh,
access that whole archive.
that'll keep somebody busy for a while. And you're located in Maine, right? In the States. Mid-coast Maine.
I live on an island 15 miles offshore on the coast of Maine.
Oh, wow, beautiful.
Yeah, I was a
Must
little
be.
unsure about today. We're in the middle of a gale here, and I wasn't sure about the
Oh,
internet. So, but we seem to have survived. So,
we made it through. We survived through
yeah,
this. Okay, well, thank you so much. And I will
my
put all that
pleasure.
information in the description.
Great.
And yeah, look forward to hearing any comments anybody has, and any comments or any shares that you have, please put them in the comments below. And yeah, we will see you again very soon. Thank you, Avrum.
You're welcome. Take care.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.